Hello and welcome to the Change Gang podcast with me, your host, Laura Ordile. I'm here to help you hold on to your sanity and your soul as you move through big change in your life. I'm here to guide you, inform you, and hopefully help you to triumph over trauma and the long list of symptoms that come along with it. This podcast series is to bring knowledge, share stories, and open up conversation around hope for those of you that suffer with the difficulties that present themselves in your life, from diagnosed or undiagnosed trauma. Labeled or not, I know you need help, and so do those that have graciously taken the time to have these conversations with me. So let's get to it.
Welcome to the week, Change Gang. I hope that you're ready for a fun conversation. I have Jacquelyn Haley here, who's a wonderful hypnotherapist and has been practicing for quite a long time. And I'm excited to chat with her about her journey and the amazing areas that she works in. Thanks for being here, Jacquelyn.
Thank you for inviting me.
You've been doing this for 16 years, yes?
I thought it was less, and when I look back, it was 2007 when I started training, and I've always been one of these people that when I do something, I have to dive in, gumboots the lot, and do as many practice hours and read as much as I can. And I started taking clients up to the first few months, practice clients. So when I look back into the world of hypnosis since 2007.
When you think about it, it's like, oh, that was only a couple years ago.
When someone said about the 80s, I think, oh, that was just 10 years ago. But it's like, oh, it was 50 years ago, 40 years ago.
Oh my goodness. I know. Time is so interesting. So when you originally got into hypnosis, what was that about? Did you have an issue yourself that you wanted to deal with, or was it to help someone that you knew? What was the journey like for you?
Two things for me. It was probably back in 2004 when I look back, because I went, no, oh no, like, I'm sort of internet went off then. When we look back, my journey into perimenopause perhaps started around 2004. I bought some recordings. I've always been very slim and always been a gym bunny, gone to the gym and always looked after my fitness. Then I moved overseas. I think it was in 99. I moved overseas to work for a big holiday company called Thompson's, or 2 years they know now. And the lifestyle is hectic. You work, you eat, you party as hard as you work. Drink was in abundance. We often lived in 5-star hotels. So as you can imagine, weight started creeping on. I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't doing anything that I used to do. And I had put a lot of weight on. And one of my customers told me about Paul McKenna and this weight loss package she had done. So I bought it. And at the time, I had been promoted to be a team leader of the resorts. And those were trying times because you work with everything from the accidents to the more in-depth complaints, the deaths, sadly, anything that went on in resort, like rapes, burglaries, police station, people who were arrested abroad. I would kind of deal with all that. And that stress would lead me perhaps to eat more. So when I bought Paul McKenna's recording, it was a pack of 4. But I always remember the one he did about motivation to exercise. And I could still hear his voice. He used to go, you'll be empowered to take daily motivational exercise. He'd say something like that. Well, literally within days, I was running along the beach. I lived in Fuerteventura at the time, which is a small Canary island. I'd run for an hour. I'd feel amazing. And within days, not only was I losing weight, I'd lost a stone in a month. I was dealing with my work a lot better as well. And I remember my managers calling me stressed. I'd be like, you need to do Paul McKenna. You need to listen to this. When I moved back to the UK, I had kind of decided I wanted to do something different from travel. And this pamphlet fell through my door on hypnosis. But around the same time, my sister got diagnosed with cancer. So I thought, well, okay, there's a passion and love I really like, and there's something I can perhaps look differently to do to help her as well, you know, and it just opened this door, not just for hypnosis. I went on to complete a degree in university on complementary health and numerous other private courses. My journey has never stopped learning. I love studying. I love expanding my knowledge, because every time, Laura, you'll understand this, you have a client in front of you, no two people are the same. And you can read as many textbooks as you wish, but not one textbook will tell you what that client's going to do and how it's going to react. They're going to react, what their past was. They're great guidelines, don't get me wrong, and we learn fantastic things from books, but your biggest book is that person sitting in front of you. And I realised not everyone responds to the same thing. That's why I've loved expanding my knowledge. I've run wellbeing centres, I've closed them again, I've gone working from home, I've done online working, so many different things. But that was my passion really, was A, being very surprised that it worked, because there are so many myths on there around hypnosis, and B, looking at what it could do for people who were diagnosed with cancer. And lo and behold, my first teacher actually worked in a cancer hospice. It was one of his main roles. He worked with the staff that used to treat the patients. So yeah, it was a good alignment. It gelled really well.
So is that what kind of led you into working with people with trauma, with difficulties? Is through that, or was that something recent that kind of came in play for you?
It's something that came a few years after the cancer, because what I realized, and you do all these studies, okay, but you don't seem to be true until you do your own work. And what I realized is that the build up to everyone's, not just a cancer journey, but any chronic illness that they had, there was this story of trauma, of upset, of betrayal, mistrust. There was all these stories that people had they hadn't dealt with. So I thought, hang on a minute, we're not looking at dealing with illness now. We're dealing with the prevention of it. We're dealing with the lifestyle. And that's where the complementary health degree came in handy, because we did look at nutrition, we did look at exercise, it built in everything to it. When I work with people, it's not just what's going on here, it's what they're putting in there, it's what they're listening to, it can everything, what the environment is. And we look at it from a whole bigger perspective. So that's why. And then, as you know, I met you in a trauma group. When I found Sarah's course a few years ago, I was kind of blown away with how Sarah works very similar. She looks at the nutrition, she looks at the gut health, she looks at environment. Everything is encompassed in that one course that we do. And that's why I led on. And I'm a big believer in not following protocols or rules. You know, we bend them with the client. But this one I do now, this trauma program we offer now, it actually involves everything, and it gets, so that's kind of what I do.
It does. It's pretty amazing how you just go along the line of the protocol, go along the line and do this. And when you do this, it works. And then when you see it work, it's almost like, wow, that's magic. That's so cool. Did it change things for you when you started working with people with trauma or anxiety, kind of moving in that direction? I know that you work also with people going through menopause and dealing with that, which is a very difficult emotional time, and not just at the emotional level, but at that hormonal level, like you said, kind of bringing everything in. And what I find interesting is that oftentimes through hypnosis, and yes, definitely always with nutrition can make a difference, but with hypnosis that can help balance even that hormonal level, because it's already doing that. Our subconscious is already balancing and running our hormones. So how has that played out for you? Are you working with people in a certain area right now more often than others, or is it kind of a general mishmash of people that are coming?
It is a mishmash. I'm working mostly with men, oddly enough. I was working with men, and the menopausal thing with me is not going to perhaps launch until the middle of May, but at this point I did want to dedicate this podcast to a very beautiful friend of mine called Lee Campbell, who was a very big advocate for women going through menopause. I learned so much from her, from my own training. She's also one of my closest friends, and she sadly passed away 2.5 weeks ago through cancer, and it was quite a quick journey for her. And me and my other friends said we will dedicate a program to her in time, when we all get time to get together, because she was so passionate and fierce about that work and about women in general. And when we look at women of a certain age, they all go through several changes in their life. When we look at it here in the UK, the stats show that women are at their most suicidal between the age of 51 to 55. Some stats show 45 to 55. And it also coincides with those menopausal years when our hormones are becoming completely depleted. And what kind of struck me about that is that women will say, oh, I'm just too young to be menopausal. But if I had to trace my journey back, I was actually 34 when it happened to me. I can remember where I was on the day. I was sitting in this bar. We were living in Lanzarote. We were having pub grub, and that means like a bar meal, you know, not really healthy for us. And my belly just expanded out and my button popped off. And I was in the size 14 at the time, which was quite big for me then. And the weight just started growing and growing and growing. And it kind of just went up and up and up and up. And then I had 2 children. And but the second baby, my weight had spiraled out of control. I just took it as I was an older mother. I wasn't exercising as much, and perhaps I wasn't as particular with my nutrition, because when we got 2 babies back to back, I call mine Irish twins because they're exactly a year apart, back to back, you had just got no time to think. You know? And the weight expanded. And then I had this really bad accident where I fell and broke my ankle in 3 places. Couldn't walk for a long time. And my ex-partner is Spanish and he cooks fantastic meals. I just ballooned up to the biggest I'd ever been. And it was really scary. And I was so tired. I didn't have the motivation to exercise. And it was during that time I was bedbound that I thought, right, okay, I can't do something about this. Let's look on into the world of online training courses. And that's when I discovered discovered a deeper way to learn about nutrition, how processed foods are really affecting us, how when we look at the government, so how they have this idea of what we should be eating, and when you look at the foods that they place high up there that we should be having, they're full of processed rubbish. And all our my nutrition training had been based on their guidelines, which is what we have to do. And it was thankfully around that time as well, I recovered then. I went to train as a personal trainer with trainer in 2014. It was a year after my ankle. And we had a sports nutrition coach who was teaching us, and he said, I'm going to teach you this to get you through the exam. We did that, and he said, now this is what I need you to know. That's when it all changed for me, and I was like, wow. So when you think about pasta, I don't know if you've ever followed Marissa Peers. She's a massive famous hypnotherapy trainer, and she's worldwide. She's from the UK, but she's worldwide. And I did one of her weight loss training, and she said, think about what's in pasta. When we're younger, when we make those paper mache, I don't know if you had them up with you, paper mache, you mix flour and water, and what does that make? Glue. It's pasta made of flour and water. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't really look at it that way. But as soon as I cut these foods out of my life, my goodness, the energy come back. And it was like, wow, I get how nutrition plays a massive part. But stick to that kind of eating is discipline. And that's where the hypnosis come in for me. So gelling them together meant we could stick to these changes we made if we had the right mindset to do it. And that's where we can make the changes in the mind, because that's where it all begins.
I had no idea that there was such a statistic around the women at that age and being suicidal, with the women being 50, I think you said 50 or 51 to 55, something like that, that they're the highest suicide rate. I did not know that. So that's a little bit scary.
When we look at the reasons behind this, why, when we think I probably was a classical candidate, my partner left me a few years ago. There was another woman involved. My children were growing up. I mean, they're only 16 and 17 now, but they were finding their own lives. They were going out. And all of a sudden I was filled with this silence. And when you talk to a woman who's got young children and growing up, and we always crave this freedom, don't we? And we say, is it freedom or is it loneliness? And you notice the mothers that come back with all these young children go, oh, it's freedom. And then the people are older like me. So we go, it's actually quite lonely, because you've been this mum first and foremost for so long, and you still are a mum. And our children, as they get older, need us in other ways. But generally, life is more silent for us because we don't have them around or need us as much as what we used to. So there are big changes going on in a woman's life anyway. The empty nest syndrome, lots of things. And then all of a sudden, just to double whammy it, we drop out, hormones drop to such a low level, our body stops creating that. So all the things that estrogen and progesterone and testosterone is doing for us, we no longer have them in our system.
That's so true.
Exactly. So what do we do? And there was this big thing, isn't there, about hormones that are now taking HRT is really bad for us. Now, I've done a few training courses, and of course I have my dear friend Lee with me. We talked every day, and menopause is one of our big topics. And if we are devoid of thyroxine, we won't survive without. If we can't produce insulin in the body, we take that for diabetes. So I don't know what the stigma with taking HRT, it was a whole thing. But when we look into why that was, we've got what we call synthetic hormones. And when we look at the way synthetic hormones were made, and it's sorry to any animal lovers out there, this really upset me when I studied this. They actually get they make it from horses' urine. But what they do is I don't even want to say this. Let's just say lots of cruel things we did done in front of the horses to rise their fear levels so they'd be more cautious with the urine. And that's where we get synthetic hormones for. And the stats are showing, Laura, this is really, really kind of frightening, that synthetic hormones, there's a 60% chance that you will get some form of cancer, particularly breast cancer, from taking these synthetic hormones. But we do have what we call, there's bioidentical and body identical. I always get these two wrong. The ones you can get from your pharmacist, your GPs, the ones that are identical in structure to our hormones. So if anyone's going to go on HRT, it's really important you get them ones and not get the synthetic ones as well. Really, really important. The research shows that for these body identical hormones, they do show that they really, I have to go back to the stats, but they're really low in the stats that there's a chance of endometrial cancer or breast cancer, womb cancer. There's a real kind of low risk involved.
Where does the work with the hypnosis, especially around working with trauma, PTSD, those types of things, the work that you do there, how does that apply? Because a lot of women will say, yeah, but I don't have trauma. I don't have this. How's that going to help me?
I have found, at least in my personal experiences here now, I find when a woman has that repressed trauma in her life, the menopause symptoms can be worse. And if we take that back to when they first started the periods, because when I did my degree, I did actually do my independent research in PMT, premenstrual tension, premenstrual syndrome, and something called PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoria. 5% do suffer, and it makes a woman chaotic. And I mean, people have committed murders, literally committed murders when they've got this very rare symptom. But for me, it's a body's in balance, if your nutrition is optimal, if you're exercising and looking after your body, I generally believe from my own experience, I'm doing this with others, that they can bring that back into balance. And the trauma that people suffer from, if it's been repressed, or that doesn't bother me, it does for me. It bites on the backside sooner or later, as we know. And I think in a time of perimenopause and menopause, women are in that kind of vulnerable state. Their bodies are changing. They don't understand why. There's not enough education out there, or there's something too much bombarding. Do this, no, do that. If you see Facebook at the moment, you will see something different every day. We've been talking about this now, so chances are it'll come up on our phones later on, like menopause. There's so many people saying, don't do that, do this. And it's a very confusing time to know what to do for the best. And here in the UK, there's only 40% of the doctors have actually trained in menopause, and not all of them are great at it, do you know? So I think with the hypnosis, for me personally, when it comes in, unburdening and releasing and letting go and accepting all those things in the past can make us more clearer. It puts us in a healthier mindset. And when we're in that healthier mindset, or we're feeling a lot lighter, a lot freer, we can deal with all these things a lot better. Yes, then we can get to the gym, but whatever blocks, whatever obstacles, we can follow a better eating plan. We can take care of ourselves on a deeper level, because when we suffer from trauma and anxiety, we don't have the energy to do those things. It's easy to reach for a packet of crisps or not go anywhere. It's quite easy to fall into that trap.
Definitely. Well, and do you find that, especially at that time, I think that women have been through, men as well, but definitely anyone, but if you're going through that hormonal time, or even at that time of life, oftentimes things will come in where things do start to quiet down. It is silent. It is a little more, and things inside get a little louder, and a little bit, it starts to come up more. But oftentimes people don't realize that. They'll be saying, oh, that's just how I grew up, or that's just life. That's just something, where they don't realize that those were anchor points of some form of trauma in their life, because we don't think about it being trauma. It was just our life. It was just something that happened. But to the little person who's 2 years old and their parents go through a divorce, or even just have a big argument, that can be a moment that anchors inside of us as trauma, and something that we forget about, we don't know, but that now all of a sudden we have all these niggling feelings. We have these feelings of discomfort, of feeling lost, of feeling like we don't know what to do, how to do it. And then other things start to come up. The pain comes up, the imbalances come up, the anxiety comes up, and not knowing that it could be related to that moment when you were 2 years old, that your parents had an argument, or your dog died, or, something in that moment was traumatic. That quietness kind of amplifies some of the other stuff going on inside sometimes.
That's when things come up that, why am I suddenly thinking about this? Oh, that's weird. But my belief is that when it needs to be dealt with, it will be presented to you in a way, and now you'll have an opportunity to change it. Not everyone wants to change. In fact, there's a very few amount of people that go on to change it. And again, I'm one of my stats. When we look at what we call post-traumatic growth, they were saying that in one book I was reading, was saying there's 66% of people who are like that. They just get on with life and they just get over it. Then you've got 33% of the population that will go, and they'll thrive, not just survive, they will thrive, and they'll become massive, and it will become their whole life over their pain, and they turn it into what we call pain into power. Then there's that very small percentage, they stick in that area where they don't move on. And these are the type of people you see online talking about, oh, my anxiety today, my anxiety, and the same person still with the same stuff years down the line. You think, why could you waste your life? I don't know about you, but as soon as I get niggling me, I'm straight forward to one of my hypno friends, or my back, I'm down to the sports masseuse. I don't waste time in suffering, there's really no need to.
No, most definitely. And actually, I've got to think that just from the expansion of people that I continue to talk to and learn from, those numbers have got to be a little bit different, because I think people are not getting over it as much as some others say they are. And one of the things that I really love to let people know about with hypnotherapy is that sometimes you can push through, you can move on, you can get where you want to go, move past those blocks. It's going to take longer, it's going to be harder, and it might not stick. You might fall back into some of the other things. With hypnotherapy, you're going in and changing it at that most significant level, at the subconscious level, changing the root programming going forward and clearing out the crap. And so when you do that, it sticks. It makes it quicker, easier, more effective, more complete. And why wouldn't you want to do that?
I mean, don't get me wrong with some at the minute, and it's very complex. And so there's other people and authorities involved. And I was referred to by one of them last week as a low-level mental health worker. And I just thought my part in this is being questioned and looked at. The others are just getting on with their job. I took it quite hard last Thursday, actually. I was thinking, why am I? And I thought, you know what, shake out of it. You know what you do. We know what we do. And it just goes to show the ignorance that is out there concerning hypnotherapy. This is why I feel it's our job to shout it from the rooftops without giving confidentiality. When we look at confidentiality in the counselling, you never see counsellors or psychiatrists going, oh, I had this great result of this client this week. They just don't do it. But you see a lot of hypnotherapists doing that. I only do that if I'm given permission. I tend to wait my clients. I look at 6 months to a year on and how they are. I follow them up 6 months and a year on. If they're still doing well, I say, would you mind recommending what you had done? And these people are already talking about me on Facebook. It's not like I'm asking them to do something. Would you mind now making it more official on Google? Because that's where people go to look for people like us, is on Google. And I ask them, it's 6 months to a year before I ask them how they are, would they mind them refer, just like they refer a great film, a great movie, a great restaurant. So many people out there are struggling unnecessarily, and I mean massively, especially again, stats in Wales. I come from a small place called Wales, and there's higher in men. There's 4 to 1 of men suffering than women actually at the minute. So it's post-COVID times, definitely. So it's sad to think that we can't get out there and get out closing and do the work that we're so highly trained to do because it's not actually kind of so recognized. I don't know what it's like in America.
It's the same. I think it's getting better. I often say I'm the last stop. I'm the last ditch effort for people. They come and say, I've tried everything else. I might as well try this. And I really wish it would be the first stop. That in so much of the work that I do, it would make such a difference for people if I was the first stop, because it would just be like, oh goodness, I can move forward and feel free and feel better and healthy and strong going forward.
I remember being at a health show, but again, just before COVID, I had my little stall and my certificates, and at the time I was all in my brown colours and everything looked lovely, and I was feeling great. And this guy went, you're an absolute quack. I said, sorry, do I know you? He went, you're a quack. I said, how can you say that this works, hypnotherapy? I said, all right, okay. I said, you obviously don't believe that. No, I don't. And his wife had come to me to ask me about anxiety, and then he'd come along with his quack, and I said, okay. I said, do you like cars? He said, yes, I do. I said, all right, what's your favourite? He said, Porsche. I said, oh, great car. I said, great choice. They can go from 0 to so many miles an hour in 3 seconds. Absolutely amazing, isn't it? I said, right. I said, okay, let's put it this way. If you owned a Porsche, I said, and you kept it in your garage, and you read the manual that said it could do all this for you, and you thought it was a load of crap and it would never happen, would you just leave your Porsche in the garage, or would you take it for a ride to see what it could do? He went, yeah, of course I would. And I thought, it's not getting through. And I went, yeah, I know, I would too. Anyway, let's leave it, that type of thing. And it didn't register with him. But that is the truth, isn't it? We've got this powerful tool here, the best computer known to mankind, and people don't dabble with it because the doctors don't tell us to. We take the pills,
Right.
Medicine is a great place, don't get me wrong, but there are other ways, like I said, hypnotherapy, it digs deep. And if we look at the way our brains are connected, we got the frontal cortex, the limbic system, and the reptilian brain. I always explain it's almost like a traffic jam between the flow. So through hypnosis, once you add that psychosensory therapies, that it just clears the traffic jam, so things are flowing clearly again. We can think clearly, we can see clearly, we can hear better. Life just becomes freer, as you said. So yes,
it does, and balances out, like we talked about. It's amazing to see people who are having all the trouble and all the symptoms, and often they don't put the symptoms together with as being related, that this and this and this and this are all caused by this one little thing back here. And when we can pull that out and get rid of that root cause, that thing that's there, then all of those things that are spiraling out from that disappear. And that's wonderful. I think it's awesome.
And I forgot, there's something else I was going to say then. Another thing in menopause, your memory. Mind you, someone got in touch with me, a mailer, who said, do your memory go into tinnitus? And I was like, actually, I don't know if it's menopause or tinnitus. But men got these dips in hormones as well, haven't they? So yeah. But no, that's what I like to explain to my clients. It's that simple. And it's just clearing up traffic jams and letting things flow again, really.
I love that. Well, Jacuelyn, why don't you, I'm going to have everything in the show notes, of course, that you sent to me. But can you tell people how to find you, how to reach out to you?
Right. I'm on Facebook. It's probably my best Facebook. I quit Instagram and Twitter, or X was called. Is it X now, Twitter?
It's X now, yeah.
So to answer your question, only on Facebook. I only tend to use Facebook as my only social media now. I've also, should I send you a link? People tend to get the spelling of my name wrong. So I'm Jacquelyn Haley, but Jacquelyn is with an L-Y-N. I'll send you my link.
That would be perfect. Thank you so much for, oh my goodness, all the information. I think it is treating the whole person and bringing that whole person in. And you really talked a lot about the difference in that and how to bring that together and why it's important. And I appreciate that very much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, Change Gang. I hope you go off into the week. Have a wonderful one and that you meet me same time next week right here. I hope today's episode was interesting and helpful to you in some way. If so, find someone to share it with. Maybe it will help them too. If you'd like to know more about anything discussed here today, you can find all the places to connect with me and the guest speakers in the show notes. Or go to lauraordile.com, LauraOrdile.com, and you can reach out to me there. Until next time, ask when you need help, be kind to yourself, and have a happy day.